I have my godson listening to. I try to get up there and talk to him. They live right, it's an hour and a half somewhere in that part.
You go up in the map and
You see what I'm saying?
north, not far to Bunker Hill, not north, they're all in the same area.
It's live. It's on that route. We're not sure.
Truck and vans, you know, you see. I'm not even about that.
Oh, I mean, I've been busy.
All right, let's go. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Terry, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Christie, can I get the bank balances, please?
Yes, sir. The general account, $582,407.47. Sewer general, $106,371.60. Municipal court, $9,486.68. Corrections, $3,352.34. Cash bonds, $6,480.13. Judicial training fund, $4,844.46. 4 and 5 cent gas tax, $40,939.54. 7 cent gas tax, $5,248.62. Rebuild Alabama, $28,571.03. Sewer customer deposits, $46,307.30. Sewer capital, $126,621.20. CDB grants, $76.77. American Rescue Plan Act, $3,931.51. Capital savings, $57,336.30. For a grand total of $1,021,974.95.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the bank balances and minutes as written?
Motion.
Got a motion from Larry, to have a second?
Second.
Second from Elizabeth, all in favor? All right. So the first item we have here is resolution number 23-016, which is designating official representatives for ADM and the loan with the wastewater treatment plant. Christie, you want to tell us about that?
Yes, sir. Part of the ADM loan and grant process is they have to have official people responsible for signing all the documentation that has to be submitted, which is abundance of that. And Jake has requested that mayor and I be those people. And so this resolution is laid out as they require it, ADM being they. And this is just authorizing mayor to be a signer and me to be a representative and furnishing the documentation and data pertaining to the application for the loan and other things. So. Yes, it was submitted as town because when we first started the process, we hadn't officially changed over to city. That's how long the process has been going, and because of the initial submission being town, we have to leave it as town through the process.
All right, I have a motion to adopt resolution 23-016.
Motion to adopt.
Got a motion from Scott, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Elizabeth, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Resolution 017, we're going to table.
I thought we.
Oh,
No.
that was another one, right? All right. Resolution 017, which is approving a quote for a generator for security and IT purposes at the City Hall. Christie, you want to tell us about this?
Requested 3 quotes for a generator to support the server room, the locks, which are also ran out of the server room, and the police department functions when the power goes out during storms or ice or what have you. Received one from Current, received one from Big Cove Electric, and the third refused to submit at this time. Jason Dobbins, myself, and Tim Gaines reviewed the quotes and all are requesting the approval for Big Cove Electric and Generator Services for $18,475, which would be for a 20 kilowatt three-phase generator.
All right. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 23-017?
Motion.
Got a motion from Larry, second from Scott, all in favor? All right. 23-018, adopting an information security policy.
23-018 and 23-019 and -020 and -21 are all policies that need to be adopted and added to the Owens Crossroads Employee Handbook and Information Technology Policies. They all are in support of the cybersecurity process that we're undertaking as a city and brings us up to standards across the state for municipalities.
All right.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
At the bottom of this, and didn't catch this till a few minutes ago, but anyway, where you've got temporary workers and contractors listed in here. Because we can't force an independent contractor to sign an employee manual.
No, but they can adopt an individual contract if they're using our systems or our servers or our,
I agree with that, but the way
But
this,
it says it would be added to our handbook, but they're also information technology policy, so we can have a separate one for contractors.
that's fine.
Is that not correct, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, Tom worked with Chad from
ICS.
ICS, sorry.
Right, yeah, I don't have a problem with what's in here. I have a problem with this where it strictly says it goes to, we were trying to,
That, I pulled that blurb on each resolution that we're discussing from the actual policy itself. So that would be something we would need to address with Tom and Chad,
So
if
that
we
would
need
be
to
the-
change that.
only question I would have, should it be worded something about only if they need access to our IT services? Because,
He's particularly looking at 18, Tom.
Yeah, that's what I see.
Okay,
and,
I mean, I
here's
guess-
the scenario, I mean, we pay, part-time medics run our fire department. We pay them, we don't even pay their taxes, they are strictly, they get a 1099 at the end of the year, but they are, by this classification, they'd have to sign this and take training and everything else. So it would make no sense for somebody who's literally a contract employee. And they're not gonna use Owens Crossroads services anyway.
well, if they're assigned an iPad, they will be.
Yeah, I mean.
But those iPads don't fall underneath some of this. Actually, that is an interesting point, though. That is actually an interesting point.
I mean, I guess from a liability standpoint, the way I'm looking at it is we're trying to do this so that we can kind of be in line with what ICS is doing and also be in compliance with AMIC.
Yes.
And so I feel like, although the likelihood of this scenario popping up is very small, there is.
It's already popped up. It's a real scenario.
So
We're already standing in the middle of it. That's why I'm asking. This is that we pay,
We have 2 contracted EMS responders.
and we're going to have more as time goes on because that's how we're making sure we have. And we said we passed a resolution.
The stuff they need to sign something saying they're going to comply with the cybersecurity. I don't.
They don't have any of my technology, none of it, other than mine and Bruce's, is on the Crossroads server. All the iPads run independent.
And my legal thing to this is basically you're making them sign an employee handbook, but they're not employees. And they never will be employees. So if you're going to do this, you've got.
What you're saying is if it needs to have the wording, if you have access to the
service.
Or we need or we need to do something in here where it says staff service, and then there needs to be a separate policy just for contract workers, or an exemption, or however you want to do it at the end, because you can't require someone that you only 1099 to sign employee handbook.
But if they're using our equipment, which the iPads are our equipment,
Even though it's not into the server.
Right, but those iPads are the way they're set up is it's like a hammer. So it doesn't have an internet browser on it. It doesn't have access to anything. It literally has a piece of software that it runs. So it may be a piece of IT equipment, but it has absolutely zero connection to anything. Because the way we set those up is they're locked down, and they don't even have email on them right now. They may eventually, but it'll be an email that we set up that they can see, and it won't be their personal email. It'll be one that we control.
I don't have any problem with having contractors sign an agreement as long as it's not part of an employee handbook.
I think that's
Is
the
the last
distinction.
sentence where the issue is coming in?
It kind of is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we're saying the same thing. I agree with you, James. I think, but I would like them to sign some sort of acknowledgement basically.
And I don't
saying that
disagree
they're
with that, no,
following-
I'm not trying to get them out of it. I have an issue with them signing our full employee handbook, which then makes them privy to everything else.
So,
And then also puts us on the hook to provide them with other services, because now we're treating them as an employee and not a contractor.
I got a question. So they don't have to follow our manual, so therefore they can get out and do whatever they want to in these vehicles and you can't hold them liable. Is that what you're saying?
No, they signed,
That's what I'm
they
trying- that's
signed
what
an
I'm-
agreement. They're contractors, they signed an agreement to how they will behave as a contractor, not an employee.
I think,
Those are two very different things. Now, you have employee handbooks and you have contractor. They're two very, very, and our employee handbook is, when it was simple,
They
was
go by
fine.
standard operating procedure,
But
which
it's
is
no longer
here
simple.
under the employee handbook. We just can't call it the employee handbook.
well, I think the
You know what I'm
last,
saying? Because
the
they're not
last-
employees.
the last
And they can
sentence,
demand benefits. If we ever do anything to ease them into an employee category, they can ask for benefits and everything else.
all of a sudden we're on the hook for
That's what
taxes
I'm
and everything
trying to
else.
yeah, but I think
Gotcha.
the last sentence, the policy must be adhered to by all contractors working with as sub. So the language is that as a part of
And when you-
operating as a contractor, they're going to adhere to the policies that are in place.
And we agreed when we had the conversation with ICS that we will never have a temporary, we're not giving out IT services to temporary contractors. And there's not a scenario where we have a temporary worker where we have access. So the language we came up with in that was, if anyone who is an employee has to follow this.
Right, but there's like, the and and the or is very important, where it's adhered to by all City of Owens Crossroads employees and by contract, it separates employees and contractors. It delineates two individuals. There are two sets of individuals who must adhere to the policy. Employees who are subject to the handbook and subcontractors who must adhere to the terms therein.
See where you're going. I don't.
So you got, and I truly, if you just highlight that, this
So you've
policy.
got, and employees or temporary workers, so they both have to apply, they both have to go with the employee handbook. And then you're saying because of the way the and is putting in, that by contractors working in the City of Owens Crossroads as subcontractors, that
They
they,
have to follow it.
We're
They will have to
delineating
follow
that
it.
for employees. They're subcontractors, but they have to follow it.
we'll need a separate form for them to fill out or something, which is a simple generation.
Yeah.
I think that.
And I'm okay with, at that point, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think the concern that the fire department has is well-founded. If the individuals are 1099 guys, we need to avoid putting the city, so this is a excellent discussion.
We don't need to even hint that they're employees.
And so I think that the signatory block denoting their lack of employment status, that they're subcontractor, and then city employees noting that they are employees, and even if we style the instrument, the title it separate. But the way that I read this, I know, what was the name of the entity?
I see it's Chad.
Yeah, Chad, you know, this was pulled for some stuff that they had previously that other municipalities had. And, the way that I read it again is policy must be adhered to by all employees. So you have a segment of employees or temporary workers if you did bring somebody in, and by, so you're employees, temporary workers are camp, and then contractors are separate camp.
So I agree with you. I would be careful with temporary workers and not temporary employees. Because you'll have to write in definition that a temporary worker is an employee in your thing.
I gotta look and see how it's defined in the thing.
Yeah, I don't know how it's defined either.
So would you feel comfortable if we have a conversation about it being defined?
I was okay with this. I just, based on the conversation I had, and then I caught that last line and I was like, well, that throws a monkey into some stuff that we're trying to do. So I'm still okay with the document. It's just applying it to the right group of people and in the correct context. That's my only concern.
The way that I interpret this is that everyone, irrespective of their classification, whether as an employee, a temporary worker, or a contractor, is subject to this.
And I don't have an issue with that.
But it's not gonna, if your guys as contractors, just because they're subject to it, does not, I don't think it would fit to shoehorn them away from 1099ing to be an employee.
Yeah, we just don't want to sign employee handbooks.
I think if we do a acknowledgement,
We can, it's just a separate sign sheet for contractors, and it's the same document, right?
they're adhering to the policies.
Correct. It's the same policy, it's the same document. It's just you have
Just identified as contract.
identified as contractors, and then we will probably have to break out several of these in that same, so we don't have to discuss all of them, but you probably have to just do all of them kind of the same way, because some of these will apply to strictly employees, and some of these will apply differently to a contractor.
Because your system's totally different than
Yeah.
these guys said. 'Cause
Yeah, no,
your
all
guy
mine
would be
are,
let's, all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, no, all my guys,
So right now, it's just a fire
yeah,
that we have to be cautious on, but if there is.
Yeah, that's how we're supplementing our 24/7 service,
I just
is
don't
by
think
employing already
we should
certified
make these
folks on a
employees.
part-time basis
Yeah.
as
And
a contractor.
I think if we, I don't want to wake up one morning to have 2 employees where I had 2 contractors.
I think if we can get them to sign a statement that specifies what capacity they are agreeing to abide by the policies, I think we're good.
Okay, with that noted discussion,
Would it be as simple as just making them part-time employees, and they wouldn't be,
No, because
Would
that would,
cost more money.
it would cost us a whole lot more money.
if they're not entitled to benefits, so are they?
That was the whole point.
But as part-time employees, they are entitled to taxes
voted
being
on this
paid
and
for them and
agreed to
stuff, yeah.
Gotta go back and find what we pulled and talked about it.
and if they work so many hours, Scott, they work so many hours, then they can also, demand to be put into the retirement system.
The state requires it, if you sit there and you float against that up to 80,
Yeah.
if you float at 75, you can still be forced to put them in the retirement system because they're just playing a game then between 75 and 80.
Councilman Baker, let me say this, I think there are continuing discussions as it relates to fire services and what the plan is going to be going forward as far as the needs of the city growing and how best for the department to be established and for individuals who are operating in that capacity for how the city has them designated. That's a conversation that's been had several times.
I was gonna say, y'all helped us write the resolution to put the contractors in, because we've been through this, it's been beat up through legal and run through.
But Councilman Baker, I do think that it's something we're going to have to revisit as the needs of the town grow and as the department does as well.
So if we issue a separate form for the agreement for the 2 different groups of individuals, are we okay with this resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Presumptive of competence.
Tom said he's good, but I was asking James.
That will accomplish what you need from the legal side.
All right, any other discussion?
I think to answer your question, what we really need, since we're moving into adding these extra policies and stuff, because this is not something that was immediately on our radar when we were setting this stuff up. I think we need a document that defines what is a contractor, what is an employee, what is a part-time employee, down to hours and everything else. And then that, once that document's in place, then we can have it's just a paperwork, a cover sheet, whichever one they sign, for whichever category they're in. Because some of these will only apply to employees, and some of these will apply to contractors, right? And so it's not all of the training we're going to make mandatory for employees will we be able to make the contractors take. Only some of it will we be able to make them take. And so in that document, we need to lay out what they're liable, what they have to do, what they don't have to do for each category of employment. I think that's probably and that probably falls on you guys to put that document together.
Definitions.
Yes.
So are you wanting that in place before these are adopted?
No, I don't think so. I think we,
That's what I'm
everybody else,
trying
I know, but I wanted the agreement that we should do that before we adopt. If we agree that we're going to do that, then yes, I'm okay with
And
it.
I think we probably could make reference to the resolutions themselves in those instruments. Just,
Absolutely.
yeah, have it where if these resolutions are passed, as provided in the resolution, XYZ, this party is deemed a employee, this signatory person or signatory party is deemed an employee or deemed a.
But while you're going through that, I don't think we have a designation for temporary or part-time employees or whatever, but we need to do that. And in there, when they sign on as a part-time or temporary employee, they understand up front they're not eligible for these services, right? They're, if you only work this number of hours per week, you're not eligible for the insurance benefits, you're not eligible for the retirement, so they sign that when they come on.
Having some sort of disclosure as to.
Up front, so they know what category of employee they're in, and we know when we're doing this. And then and in that same document, you are subject to training XYZ, right? And because of this employee category, you're subject to XYZ every year, mandatory, whatever, so it just goes as part. So there's definitely, take our basic handbook, but you make a separate part for each.
But it's a lot easier if you brought a guy in the past to cut grass and his phone didn't connect to Wi-Fi.
Right.
It was a lot easier.
No, it was just, a part-time employee, yes, they have to take the sexual harassment training and they're eligible for all this stuff, right? But a 1099 contractor isn't. So we need to spell all that out kind of up front, and then this makes sense.
If council were to pass these resolutions, Tom and I will get, I think just a cover sheet, because the policies are going to be the same across the board. You have one that you staple on top if it's this, one if you staple on top if it's that, and you can go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of defining of employee types would be
Yeah.
very beneficial right now.
All right, so do we want to pass all these resolutions together or want to pass them individually?
They need to be passed individually.
All right. So do I have a motion to adopt resolution 23-018?
Motion.
Motion from James, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Elizabeth, all in favor? Aye. All right, I need a motion to adopt resolution 23-019. Motion from Terry, do I have a second? Second from Elizabeth, all in favor? For resolution 23-020, adopting an incident response policy. Do I have a motion to adopt that? Motion from James, do I have a second? That's a second from Terry or Larry, all in favor? All right. So we're down to ordinance 23-018,
You didn't
commercials.
do 21, sir.
Oh, I didn't do 21? Okay. Resolution 23-021, adopting a risk assessment policy. Do I have a motion to adopt that?
Motion.
I've got two motions from Larry and Terry, all in favor? No, that's a first and a second.
Okay, second is Larry, first is Terry.
Okay.
And that was all?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now we've got ordinance 23-008, commercial sewer tap fees. Christie?
Yes, been in conversation with Jake Roth, our engineer, and Bill Thomas, our head of sewer operations. They felt that our commercial tap fees were not adequate based on the usage and the wear and tear on the sewer system itself. And after much discussion, Jake has brought forth the suggested rates as listed on the ordinance here. These are comparable to surrounding communities who have sewer tap fees. So, do we have any questions about that, or comments?
No questions, no comments? Do I have a motion to consider ordinance number 23-008?
I make a motion to accept
Consider, you gotta consider.
it. I might consider it.
All right. Got a motion to consider, do I have a second?
You don't do it at the same time again.
All right, got a motion, second. All right, now I need a motion to adopt.
Wait, you got it, all in favor?
All in favor, I'm sorry. All in favor? All right. Was it 100%?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now I need a motion to adopt ordinance number 23-008. Got a motion from Larry, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Elizabeth. All in favor? All right, we've got ordinance number 22-003, rescinding ordinance no longer enforced by Owens Crossroads PD.
We just need a vote that y'all are in agreement that this ordinance is rescinded.
Yep. Do I have a motion to consider rescinding ordinance number 22-003? Got a motion to consider from James, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Elizabeth, all in favor? Aye. Do I have a motion to adopt the rescinding of ordinance 22-003?
Motion.
Got a motion from Larry, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Elizabeth, all in favor? Aye. All right, we're tabling ordinance number 16-12-15, so we're good there. So we'll go around to the departments. Laura, you got anything?
What's the report that's in there?
Okay. All right. Teresa, you got anything?
My report's in there.
All right. Let's see. Brandy?
The only thing is I'm gonna be going to Hoover for another conference on the 11th.
Okay, and your report's in here too, right?
Two of them are, yes.
All right. And then we've got Shannon, you got anything? Beth? All right. Christie?
No, sir. Still working on the insurance stuff for the storm damage here. Busy with all this, waiting on, don't forget everyone, their budget numbers need to be to me by the 14th. I don't know anything else that's pressing that hasn't been discussed.
Okay.
So,
Shannon, you got anything?
That's what I think I'm good.
Okay. CT, you got anything?
I'm running smooth.
All right. Chief, you got anything?
Yes, sir. We'll let everybody know that due to the public safety, at Richard Branham Drive and Richard Branham Circle, we're gonna put in a three-way stop The reason being is because the way the road, Richard Branham Circle, it only has a stop sign on one side of it, one of the three sides. One of the sides is a blind hill that comes over, makes it very dangerous for someone trying to pull off of Richard Branham Circle onto Richard Branham Drive or to make that turn. We're gonna put up a three-way hallway stop right there to try to help the people that live out on Richard Branham Drive out a little bit and hopefully maybe slow down some of the traffic. They've been complaining about the traffic as well. I think this would be great. We actually had an accident over there the other day. It was a minor accident, but it was all because of the blind hill. So some of the citizens there have come to us, or come to me for a resolution of the problem, and I think that's the best way to fix it. We put in signs already that said blind hill, a blind road entrance. They ain't even paid that any attention. So I think that's the best way to do it, is put a stop sign there, everybody has to stop.
All right. Let's see. What about Matt and Tom? Y'all got anything?
Only thing I mentioned is the ADEM. We got all the boxes checked on that. We
Yes, sir.
had to certify, the possessory interest of the real property where it's going to go in. Jake had several documents. We had good conversations. I think it's a wonderful thing. We went in hopeful that some of it would be forgiven, and we're walking out with it being all ours. So, we're delighted about that. And like I said, there was several things that Jake needed to be executed with that ball rolling. Took care of that.
All right. Terry, you got anything?
Did we fill the mosquito spraying job?
Yeah. Dale Stone.
Yellowstone, yeah.
Anybody else apply for the job or anything?
We did an advertisement because he came to us.
And we're paying him the same we were before?
Yes.
Nothing else?
All right, Elizabeth, you got anything?
Yeah, I want to say something about the sidewalks that run along in front of the school. The grass on those sidewalks needs to be weed and cleaned up. Some of them really need repairs, because there are some kids that do use that sidewalk to walk back and forth to school on. And I noticed that the night of the run, it is in really bad need of repair and to be cleaned up.
Okay. All right, we'll look at that. Anything else?
The whole area down through there needs to be cleaned up. There's some houses that their grass needs to be cut. They've got stuff just piled out in front of them, so it's looking pretty rough down through there.
All right. What I got?
Yeah.
Scott, Dan, just Larry? Good. James?
Just the fire department's still doing good. Did training last week. Training one Thursday a month, and still looking for volunteers, folks that are interested. So reach out and let us know.
Do we have a timeline as to when we'll be able to respond to fires, or is that so far out that we don't?
I haven't been in touch with Greenlee Mountain yet on that brush truck. They told me to give them 2 or 3 weeks, and that's coming up on that, so.
So we're still fighting. There's like a couple of legal things that we still have to complete first that's out of our control. And they are actively being chased, but we're dealing with federal agencies. So that is part of the holdup. And the second part was getting this training in place, because we need trained people. And so now that the training's in place, my hope is by the end of the year we're making calls. That's my hope. We're doing 90% or better on our medical calls right now. The medical department's coming along really well. We've got that built up pretty well. We've got to figure out a little bit of how we're going to, we have to maintain, we still have to be a volunteer fire department, so we have to make sure we maintain that. And so we're kind of skirting some lines and legality we gotta figure out as we go through this. And that's kind of holding us up a little bit as well. But, we're closer now than we've ever been, so.
How many volunteers do we have at this point?
Shannon, what's our,
Jim, I've had a couple leave.
we got people who volunteer who never show up for a single meeting just because it looks good on paper and then they never come back, so. It's hard for me to tell you, but we've probably got about a core group of about 6 people that are pretty active, working pretty hard right now.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Ready to go back? Yes, sir.
We did have our, the reserves put on the 5K run on July 22nd. They had a really, really good turnout. There was about 72 or 73 people signed up to run. They raised over $6,000 from the run. I think they're doing fantastic and, you know, paying their own ways, and we're fixing to send 2 of those with that money, possibly 3, to the Reserve Police Academy. It's 1 weekend a month that they go down there and do that, or every other weekend, I apologize, every other weekend they do that. And after the January of 2025, they'll be graduated and they'll be APO certified officers with us.
Yours? How many runners did you have?
72 or 73, I believe it was.
That was good. We thought one of our town attorneys would come run, but they didn't.
Tom talked about his bone knee or something. I don't know.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Got a motion from Larry, do I have a second? Second from Scott, all in favor? Aye. Thank y'all for coming. They got a good look. They're jumping.